Thing About Cars, a podcast for car enthusiasts and the people who love them.
So, Ben, can you hear me?
Yes.
Let's experiment here. We're rolling. It's recording. I'm going to play. We have approximately 8 files that we made in varying length from the last car show we went to. And how would you like to approach these? I'm thinking we just listen to them and then you can introduce them, or what do you think would work best?
That's an idea. Maybe like if we were to make like one episode out of them, maybe start with a little short intro.
Yeah.
Hey, we went to this car show recently.
Right. So, and the other piece of that is I haven't proofed any of these files. They may be useful and they may be usable and they may not be.
I have a feeling that one of them won't be.
Okay.
Where I was talking to the guy with the Avanti, because there was a train going by in the background that I totally wasn't conscious of until toward the end.
Right. So where were we? Let's introduce this. This is the Thing About Cars. I am Mickey, and I am sitting here with my good friend
Ben.
And what did we do, Ben?
Well, we went to this really cool car show. It was part of an arts festival going on in Brookhaven.
The Brookhaven Arts Festival.
Yeah, October.
The one behind the MARTA station. And it's put on by our friend Greg Barner, who his company is called C5 Car Shows, I believe is what it's called, or C5 something.
Sounds about right.
And it was always, I mean, we went last year and we went this year, and it was the same, just really pleasant experience. It wasn't too heavy with what my fiance calls pancake cars, Lamborghinis, and super flat, super low cars.
Yeah, it was a really good variety. American muscle imports, oddball things. Just a really nice mix, and not a very big show. It's not going to give you a sore leg to walk around.
Right. It was a very eclectic collection of cars.
And who would guess that the parking lot at a train station would be a place to go to a good car show?
Exactly.
This is a Ford GT40, based on the 1966 or 1968 version Mark I.
So based on, is it a replica?
It's a replica, yeah.
Okay, great. And what's the engine in it?
Engine in is a 351 Windsor. Started out at 351. We bored, stroked, internally balanced the engine to 408. Added a lot of other engine additives. We got big heads on it, AFM 8-port fuel injection.
Just looking at the plumbing coming off the back of the thing, I'll bet it sounds at least as good as it looks.
Oh, it does.
I'm sure. When did you build this?
I got this car in 2001, and I rapidly found out that teenagers and budgets don't work well together.
Oh, yes.
So it took me 10 years to build it.
Wow, well, it really looks stunning. I'll bet it is a lot of fun, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Is there a name for this color?
Yes, called Linden Green.
Interesting, yeah.
Came off the 1961 Ford Anglia.
Yeah, for those of our listeners who can't see it, this is a really beautiful shade of green. It's I don't even know how to describe it, but it looks great on this car.
Yeah, I'm not a green person, but it was originally painted another color, and I tore up the back end on it. And when I repaired it, I couldn't do the paint.
Right.
So I went for a historic color, which was long story short, people would not give me the codes.
Right.
And I finally found a chip sheet on eBay and got a fellow to mix the paint for me, and we then got a sample from an owner who owns the GT40 with this color, and it was a perfect match.
So have you scared yourself driving it?
Not yet.
You've probably scared a passenger or two, though.
Oh, my kids are just scared to death to ride in it. My wife will not ride in it.
Oh, wow, that's great. Well, thank you so much.
Certainly. Glad to be here.
What else can we say about that guy? That car, if I remember correctly, was a kit car. It's not an actual Ford GT.
Something like that, yeah. I mean, well, replica, obviously, but just a stunning amount of beautiful work.
And it sounded beautiful.
Yes, it did.
We saw it pull out later, and I'm like, man, I want to drive that thing. But I would probably pee my pants if I really put my foot on the accelerator.
Probably.
And that was simply the first car we saw. Let's see what...
Okay, so now we're looking at this really beautiful 2008 Lotus Elise, which belongs to Doug Miller. How you doing, Doug?
Doing great. We got a great day here.
So how long have you had this car?
Bought it in 2012. And the car found me. I was looking for an '08, and I walked into a dealer outside of Buffalo, and this car was it was sitting outside with some snow on it.
Oh, dynamite. Now, why an '08 specifically?
They came in '05, and then they fixed a bunch of little stuff
between
'05 and '08. So I wanted an '08.
Great. Yeah, well, it sure is gorgeous. For our listeners who can't see, I mean, this is a very red car. I mean, it's just almost glowing from within red, with a red accent in the seats and on the doors. And so everybody knows Lotus is a pretty light car. About what does this weigh?
Weighs just a hair over 2,000 pounds. Yeah, I think 2,050 pounds wet.
And how much power is moving that?
It's about 220 horse. It's a turbocharged or supercharged 1.8 liter, and this is a special edition. It's a California edition, and they all came in naturally aspirated. But the guy that bought this had the dealer put the supercharger on it.
Oh,
so
boy.
It's got a factory supercharger, and I think it's the only one in the U.S., California, that's supercharged.
Oh, yeah, so that'll definitely get up and go.
Yeah.
And handles like nothing else.
Puts a smile on your face.
Yeah, I've never driven one myself, but I've been a passenger a couple times, and even I was smiling.
Yeah, you can be in a bad mood, you get in and you drive it, and you're in a good mood.
And because it's a Toyota engine, it's pretty reliable.
It is bulletproof.
Yeah.
It really is. That's the best thing I think Lotus ever did.
Were you one of the guys here locally a few years ago who drove their Lotuses to Las Vegas?
No, I wasn't. That was before I came to Atlanta. But
okay.
I know a bunch of those people that drove out to Vegas. In fact, I'm seeing all the memories on Facebook right now. They're popping up. I think it was 7 years ago
Right.
that happened. Yeah.
So there you have it, folks. You can drive these cars. You can use them in the real world.
Yeah, you can do it. I know people that use them as everyday drivers.
Yeah. It's probably the most fun car you've ever had, right?
Oh, by far. It's
sure,
it's my third Lotus.
Which ones have you had before?
I had a Europa.
Ah.
And had an Elan. Both of those never ran.
Right.
Never got them on the road. And so third time's a charm, I guess.
Right on. And I think you really, really hit the charm on this one.
It's beautiful. It's absolutely just a beautiful car.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, this is definitely one of the prettiest cars out here, and I can, for those of you listening, this man is smiling.
Yes.
Thanks so much, Doug.
Hey, you're welcome.
Great. So that was apparently a fellow you know from the Lotus scene.
Yeah.
Guy named Doug. And you've driven that car before?
No, I haven't. I've never driven an Elise, ridden in one or two of them.
Mm-hmm.
The driver's seat doesn't quite work for me. The passenger seat barely does. Both of the seats they're deeply bolstered and they're very narrow between the bolsters. I basically have to choose which butt cheek to drop into the space. There's enough leg room and there's just kind of enough headroom. The door is about this big and there's a sill about that wide that you have to get across to get in and out.
Right.
Like if the top is off, not much of a problem, but if the top is on, it's involved. In fact, for me to get out with the top on, basically I have to walk on my hands on the pavement until I can drop my knees out.
Right.
And in the driver's seat, which is about that much wider between the bolsters, oddly enough, but I still have to choose which cheek. But in the driver's seat, the steering wheel is on my legs.
Yeah.
There's no tilt or anything.
Not made for a tall person.
Maybe if I took the seat out completely, it might work. They're fun little cars, though. Good God.
I can't imagine a supercharged version. I mean, what kind of acceleration is he getting off that thing?
It's
and how much should that cost?
Well, brand new, they were in the upper 40s.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're much more affordable in England. Much bigger market there than in the U.S. in a lot of ways, but because they're small volume import, you've got a lot of costs and things, and so this is a car that anybody with a decent paycheck in England could have afforded, but over here it's like an E-Class Mercedes.
Right.
And 2008 was the last year they sold them here. Because
I was going to say, even then, a $40,000 car isn't that bad. Right?
Well, but more like 47.
Yeah.
Upper 40s, and that's before you get into options and packages. And not that there were a lot with that car, but they discontinued U.S. sales in 2008 because that particular engine became unavailable. In England and Europe and the rest of the world, there were 2 or 3 different engines they used, but that one particular Toyota engine was the only one that was U.S. EPA certified.
Ah, I see.
And it became unavailable, so.
Right. And he says he occasionally used it as a daily driver.
Oh, yeah.
Which is just amazing to me.
Yeah, those Elises are pretty solid cars. Yeah. They're modern technology. They're reliable.
Let's go back to the recording here and see what's up next.
I'm with
John Dunn.
John. What are we looking at here?
1945 Dodge COE, cab over engine truck.
Cab over engine truck. Tell us about it.
It's 8 feet tall.
Yep.
It's got a Chrysler 440 up under the seat.
Okay.
So it's got way too much power. When this thing was original, it was a
So yeah, how did you come across this thing?
I've always just talked it up, wanting to have a COE. I knew about them. And in 2000, I talked to somebody, and he said, oh, I know somebody who's got one. So then I went and saw it. It was all in pieces and rust and junk. And after about 6 months, I decided to buy it. It took about 3 years to put it together. So it's been a lot of fun ever since.
So you actually restored it?
Yeah, I put every single piece. I've had this thing disassembled 8 times.
Oh my goodness.
So I painted each piece one at a time. The doors, the nose, and everything. Put it together, made mistakes, took it back apart, had the engine built, put it in, had a problem with it, had to take it back out. So it's been a labor, but last 10 years it's been running bulletproof.
It looks fantastic.
Oh, it's a load of fun. Every time you get in, you feel like a 10-year-old.
So please explain to me the Big Short pipe.
That's just being a joke. For years, I'm a jerk, and so I like to think of something funny that's like mind blowing. So
Sure.
I kept trying to think of a funny load, and finally, thought of the name first. Big Short Pipe. That just sounds funny.
It is funny.
So I went and bought the pipe, and when I pulled in the driveway, my wife is like, "What are you doing with that?" So on the other door, I've got Pipe Dreams is the name of the company, and that was her idea. So
That's fantastic.
That's actually funnier than Big Short Pipe.
So to my uneducated eye, this thing looks like it's set up more like a hot rod than a truck.
Well, it's on an 86 Chevy chassis, and these are small wheels. I had to fill the fender in 4 inches.
Oh.
This was on a 36-inch big truck wheel.
Okay.
Big 2-ton chassis. And so, yes, the cab has been set on a smaller pickup truck chassis.
I see.
And if you see an original one of these, it's got giant wheels.
Yeah. It looks fantastic. It's just amazing. And it looks like it's fun to go around in.
Oh, it's amazing. When I first was building it, I was afraid if I hit the brakes, I would nose over, But no such thing. It's solid as a rock. You can even go around a corner fast and you don't roll over.
No kidding. How much time did you say you put into it?
I probably put in almost a full year. At that point, I'm a self-employed contractor, and right in 2000, 2001, I had changed over a lot of customers, and so I wasn't working for a while, and this is what I worked on.
Well, it looks like a ton of fun. It's a very pretty vehicle.
Well, I've learned you do not drink beer and then drive this. It's got way too much motor.
Well, yes, drinking beer and driving, not a good idea.
Yeah.
So.
And that was that big red truck that he had, like he said, he took this thing off of a semi frame and put it on a heavy duty pickup frame.
Yeah.
But he just loved that thing. I mean, I think he, he's one of those drivers where he's like, okay, he wanted his own drivable Tonka toy, except it wasn't a Tonka toy; it's the real deal.
Yeah. Oh, that's just so cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so you are?
I'm Greg Rogers.
Cool, Greg. And what is this car of yours?
It's a Mercedes-Benz. It's 2 Mercedes put together. That I put 90 model 300E body on a 2000 ML 430 running gear, so it's a V8 4-wheel drive. And so basically, once I built it, I said, okay, it's cool, but it didn't have the wow factor. What you see here is the wow factor.
So before we go on, is this the fellow with the big zombie mobile?
Yeah.
I'm like, Mercedes, which car could that be? And then, all right, so the listener will appreciate the pictures we put up of this car, and we've seen him around town a couple times. I just didn't realize that he was the owner of that particular car. Let's go.
Yeah, so for our listeners who can't see this, imagine a Mercedes sedan from the probably late 80s.
90.
Yeah, okay, with what looks like the Apocalypse screwed onto it. It's got a heavy-duty bumper, a machine gun on the roof, and parts and lights, and there's a skeleton behind the wheel.
That's it.
It's really cool. So, so the first part, putting the one body on the other chassis, what made you want to do that?
Well, I work on Mercedes-Benz for 30 years, and I have a shop. And at my shop, cars come and die. And I was looking one day, and I said, well, I got a good body, and I got a wrecked ML. And I said, I believe I can marry those two. So I did. And the theme, basically, that you can't see is actually everything on there is a World War II theme. So the machine gun on the top is a copy of an MG-42 from World War II. And the rest of it just followed suit, trying to make it look armored.
Very cool. And did you have to do anything to make the two wheelbases work well together?
Half an inch difference, and they married great.
Oh wow, that is fabulous. Is that a like a trunk spoiler turned around backwards on the front?
That is a Mercedes-Benz 190E 2.3 16 valve, which they only made them 2 years, about 1,800 of them. And I had one of the spoiler, and I was actually going to put it up on top and put the lights in it, but I set it down and it looked so good on the hood that we put it there, and then we built our own rack lights up on the top.
Yeah. Oh, you've got so many just great creative touches here. And things that I can tell are something else that are now whatever military hardware, and it's just really cool. Did you have any background in model building or things like that?
No, I just I work on cars for a living. I have a Mercedes-Benz repair facility, and I'm a musician, so maybe the two came together. I have no idea.
That could be, because creative minds always find an outlet somewhere. What's your shop called?
It's called BMI Mercedes Service on Peachtree Industrial Boulevard.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
He was a nice guy.
Yeah.
And he got along well with some of the other. I mean, he was poking. Apparently, these guys know each other and they poke fun at each other.
He was also saying that at the Pink Pony, which for those who don't know is a strip joint, the following weekend they were going to have a car show and costume contest.
No kidding.
And he was going to take it there, and he was determined to win the $1,500 prize.
Okay, why did we not go?
Of course, I'm thinking, well, that, and he's going to get to hang out with strippers hanging on him while people take pictures.
That's pretty funny. And he was, when I saw him before, he was at that Tucker over the summer. Tucker, Georgia does a monthly drive-in.
Oh wow!
And it's a pretty decent showing of cars as well. There's a lot of old metal up and down that street.
Okay, now we're looking at another cool car, and who's the owner?
I'm Leanne Patterson.
So while we're waiting, I talked to Leanne after, like the week after the show. She's going to join us on mic at some point.
Nice.
And she has quite a history in the automotive racing world.
Oh wow!
She used to work for NASCAR. And she lived out in California, and we talked about the Roadster that we're about to hear a little bit about this car that she brought to the show here, to the Brookhaven Arts Festival. But I think we're going to really like having her as part of the crew.
And what's your car?
This is a 1929 Ford Roadster. It's actually a 29 chassis on a 32 frame with the 1953 Merc.
Wow.
It was built by Rudy Rodriguez out in Fullerton, California in 2006. It made an appearance in Street Rider magazine in June of '06, and we actually bought it from Rudy at that time. And the original miles on this build are the 478 you see on the dial there. So it's still got low mileage on the build, and it scoots along. It's got a 5-speed overdrive in it, and it boogies.
I'll bet. I mean, for our listeners who aren't seeing this, this is kind of your quintessential sort of very basic Ford rod like you would have seen in the 50s.
It's very Saturday night. I can promise you get a date in it if you're driving it.
Absolutely. It's all black like a mirror. It's really, really gorgeous. So it gets up and goes. Have you scared yourself with it yet?
No. I'm better than that. Actually, this is for the Soapbox Derby, this car show is. So I was one of the first 3 girls to ever run Soapbox Derbies in the state of Georgia.
Excellent.
Myself, Nancy Small, Cheryl Smith. We were the first 3 girls. Went age 11.
Right.
So, and then I went on to have a career in motorsports. So,
have you scared any passengers in
No. I have skills. No.
So yes, very beautiful car. Thanks so much for talking with us.
You're very welcome.
Leanne is cool. I can't wait to get her to join us behind the mic here.
Yeah.
A very cool car, but if memory serves, it's a flathead engine.
I think so. Yeah.
And Ronnie and I were looking at that, and we're thinking. He said he would choose not to work on a flathead engine if he had the choice, and I didn't know that flatheads were that significantly different.
Well, you don't have the overhead valve train. You don't have the push rods and rocker arms. The head is basically just a slab of metal with spark plugs screwed into it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know enough about them. I've turned wrenches on one of them many, many years ago that wasn't even running at the time. I was helping a guy just clean it up and get it where it could be used, but I don't know enough about them to really comment about their quirks or difficulties.
Yeah, I don't either. But apparently Ronnie said it was like, I don't want to use the word high maintenance because that's not right, but I think it was definitely an involved process.
Well, this is a pre-1955 or so engine. I think flatheads went out in the 50s for the most part, and they're primitive, single carburetor. Some of them probably have Babbitt bearings, which are their own whole nightmare in today's modern world.
Sure.
But other than that, they're just kind of dirt simple engines.
I like dirt simple. I don't know what to say. Let's move on.
Okay, we're looking at this beautiful 63 Avanti. And what's your name, sir?
I hear a train.
Yeah. Oh, very cool, Lenny. So being a 63, this is actually a Studebaker Avanti, right?
Yeah, Studebaker. All Studebaker.
That was the last year, wasn't it?
No, they were made in 2007 in Cancun, Mexico.
But not by Studebaker.
Not by Studebaker, no.
Yeah.
Private company.
Yeah. But 63 was the last year Studebaker made them?
64.
4, okay.
Which is exactly the same as this one.
Thank you for educating us. A lot of folks think 63 was, obviously so. But how long have you had this car?
I have it 15 years.
Beautiful. And is it restored or original?
I guess it's more or less restored.
Yeah, beautiful.
Not fully restored, but just about.
And it looks like it's probably a lot of fun to drive, right?
Yes.
What's the engine in it?
The engine is a 289 Studebaker engine, supercharged from the factory.
Wow. And about how much power does that make?
300 plus horsepower.
Oh, wow. So it's got some get up and go.
A lot.
Yeah. Studebakers, I think, are so underappreciated these days. Is it a brand you're into, or?
Well, I like Studebakers. I like all cars, but
yeah,
I like Studebaker also because they're just so different.
Very beautiful. Very beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Right. So that's the one with the train track.
Yeah, and it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be.
Right.
Okay, what's your name, sir?
Dave Williams.
Oh, great, Dave. And you own this fire truck.
Right.
And what is it?
It's a 1982 American LaFrance Century model pumper. It's got a 1,000-gallon pump, and it now has a 1,600-gallon tank. It originally served as engine 290 in Brooklyn, and then after it was retired by the Fire Department City of New York, it was rebuilt by Northern Fire Equipment in Pamela, New York, and was sold in North Lawrence, New York, which is up on the Canadian border near Cornwall, Ontario.
Ah, very cool. And how long have you had it?
I've had it since 2013.
Oh, excellent. And did you always want a fire truck, or is it kind of a childhood dream thing? Or?
Actually, this is the third one that I own. I have a 1917 and a 1954.
Oh, so you're really into fire trucks.
Well, they're lower mileage in many cases than a lot of the cars, and other than just being big, that's the main thing is the difference.
Yeah, so I'm guessing you have a really huge garage then.
Well, actually, this particular truck, the 82, lives in what used to be the Kodak processing plant in Chamblee. So it's just up the street up here at Miller and Peachtree Boulevard as it is now. And the other two I do keep in my garage.
That works out pretty well. So what does a truck like this weigh?
It's about 24,000 pounds, which therefore anybody with a driver's license can drive. As long as it's less than 26,000 pounds, you don't have to have a commercial license for it.
I imagine if you decide to take your fire truck for a cruise, this is one of those kind of things that you've got to build some time in because everybody's going to want to talk to you about it.
You'd be surprised. It's kind of amazing. You'll pull in to get fuel somewhere, and somebody might come over and take pictures. A lot of times you pull in there, and they kind of look at you like you're weird, and they don't ever even say anything.
Well, it is kind of cool because your average gearhead doesn't, gravitate toward them. So, dare to be different. It is fun to drive, though, right?
Oh, it's very fun to drive. You do have to remember it's a cab-over engine, so you're in front of the front wheel. So you pull a lot further into the intersection before you start turning the wheel, or you're going to catch the tail end wheels on a curb somewhere.
Exactly. And you probably get a lot of jokes about coming to people's barbecues in case their grill flares up, right?
Well, yeah, you get a little bit of harassment about that and stuff.
Yeah, sure you do. But have you ever actually run the water equipment?
Oh yeah, the water. This truck pumps fine. When I first got it, it had a lot of scale in the pump, and we were able to get to a place where we could legally get on a hydrant and flush it out. And then we washed the scale off the parking lot where we had flushed it out, and it pumped fine. I put it pumped here. It does like a champ.
I'll bet that's fun too.
Oh, it is. Especially when people on the hose that never had a little nozzle time, they enjoy getting squirt water and play with it a little bit. So yeah, it's quite interesting.
Wow, yeah, that does sound like a lot of fun. If I ever get a bigger garage, I might have to think about one of these.
So they go. This truck was $4,800. So they're not as expensive as people think they are. Now you will, by the time you get one that's been in the fire service, you'll have to correct a lot of the deferred maintenance that occurred when it was on reserve status. But it's one of those cases that once you get those kind of things resolved, it's fired up and off you go.
$4,800?
Initial purchase, yeah. He didn't really elaborate on what it's going to cost to do everything else it needs, but still.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
That's a bargain compared to some of the cars that enthusiasts gravitate toward.
Yeah. Oh my God. I'm like, now I want a fire engine. But I mean, yeah, you need a ton of space to be able to
absolutely
to do everything you want to with that particular vehicle.
I think my garage has barely enough length if two of the cars went away, but does not have enough height.
Yeah, that's the thing. You'd need a larger warehouse type door.
At minimum, you'd have to build a pole barn out back, and then you'd have to have access.
Exactly.
And at 24,000 pounds, that access would need to be paved. You can't park this thing on the grass.
Why not?
Because with that much weight, sooner or later, it's going to start to sink in.
Really? Just plain old dirt, gravel road?
If it's very hard packed, you're probably okay.
Yeah.
But that much weight sitting for very long, sooner or later, is going to make some impressions.
Well, I also like the term nozzle time. I've never heard that before. We may have to call this episode nozzle time.
I think back to that scene in I can't remember if it's one scene or multiple in the film UHF. You get to drink from the fire hose. Okay, who are you, sir?
My name's Joe Valicenti.
Cool, and what is this car you've got?
This is a 1963 Ford Fairlane, whatever you want to call it, stock car tribute. It's sort of a tribute to the old mid-60s, early 70s, mid-70s short track cars.
Very cool. Yeah, it looks like it's been lightened a little bit and has a lot of wheel under it, and I imagine that's probably a whole lot of motor too, right?
That's actually a Ronald Reed late model sportsman motor, which was 300 cubic inches limit, 500 CFM 2-barrel carburetor.
Oh.
But it's 360 horsepower.
Yeah, so this car probably gets up and goes.
Yeah, there's no problem merging in traffic with this.
Right on. And the listeners can't see it. It's got rough paint and rust and old faded stickers and things, so they'd probably get out of your way on the visuals alone.
I don't know. I know everybody likes it. I don't know that it's that scary because, to be honest with you, out on the highway with it, and I drive this thing all the time.
Right.
I really drive this very law-abidingly, if
right.
that's a word.
Sure.
Because I think I'm pushing the envelope with this, even though it has, headlights, taillights, brake lights, turn signals. It's, missing a few technicalities, but as far as
sure.
goes, I pretty much got it covered.
So, how did you wind up with this car in its present state? What was the beginning of the story with it?
Well, in a nutshell, as I said, the wrong thing in front of the right guy or the right thing in front of the right guy. When I was a little kid, it used to make me mad that I'd see these old race cars getting rotten out in the field, and I got an idea in my head that one day I was going to get one and fix it up.
Oh, wow.
And drive it on the street, okay? And I happened to mention it to a guy who turns out used to build these little circle track cars and was bored. And he said, well, if you're serious, I'll build you one. He said, I love building them. And so I had a guy in Fayette, Tennessee, who fabbed the entire chassis together, and he basically got it as a rolling mock-up. And then I got it home and finished it out, and I did all the artwork on it. The rust is mostly real on it, and I wanted it to look like it got drug out of a field.
Excellent, excellent. It is something to look at.
Because you can't find these anymore. You cannot find these mid-70s, cars. You just don't see them. And if you find one, there's nothing left to do anything with anymore.
Yeah. What's the best thing in your opinion about having a cool old car?
I'm laughing because I'm like a minor celebrity now, and that's really kind of fun. I got to be honest with you. I love the attention. But the fact that I had no idea that, this is just a car. I was like, oh, And people were like, oh, you got to bring this to a car show. And I was like, come on, it's not this is just a fun car. Stop at a gas station and people go, oh, I remember. I had no idea. I showed up at a car show and that's all I do now. I'm retired and I just go to car shows every weekend.
Oh, fabulous. Yeah.
So it's my retirement hobby thing, yeah.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Hey, I appreciate it. I hope you got enough room on your tape for all my yakking.
Let's see what we got here.
I don't think you want to interview me.
Oh,
Let's see if we could use any of it.
Wait a minute. Is this the lady that grabbed your butt?
I think so, yeah. Yes, I had my butt grabbed by a white-haired old lady in a fur coat who drove a Rolls Royce.
Okay, here we go.
Okay.
So what is your name?
Miss Katie.
Miss Katie. And your car is?
The white Rolls Royce.
Yes, it's a big white 1986 Rolls Royce Silver Spur.
Yeah.
How long have you had it?
30-some years, 21 years.
Are you the original owner?
No.
No, but
the second.
But it was pretty young when you got it.
I had 3,000 miles on it.
Oh wow, that's great.
Yeah, it's an old lady's car.
Oh, but it's beautiful and stylish,
Yeah,
just like you are.
Oh yeah, boy, she.
I think that's where she grabbed my butt.
So you enjoy driving it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What's the most fun thing about it?
It's you get attention.
Oh, I'm sure.
The old man gets attention. Yeah,
It's very comfortable and luxurious.
No, it's not comfortable.
No?
No, it's bumpy.
Bumpy, really? I would never have guessed.
Yeah, it's not like the American cars, okay?
Oh, okay, but you still like it.
Oh yeah. I love the car.
Very cool.
And,
What got you interested in buying it?
Jealousy.
Ah.
You really wanted the truth. A friend of ours got one. I said, you son of a bitch, you got one. I'm going to get one. You better watch it.
His name wasn't Jones, was it?
No, it was a close friend of ours.
Oh, yeah.
Spent on it. So if my husband would know how much I spend on this car, he would kick my butt.
Well, I won't tell him. So you must love it a lot to have kept it this long.
Yeah.
It brings you a lot of happiness.
Get a lot of pleasure out of it. It's unique.
Yeah, it is beautiful.
Nice one. We enjoy it. My husband doesn't drive much anymore. He's too old. So I drive it.
So then when you're driving, does he sit in the front or the back?
Depends if he's in the dark, I'll sit in the back. If we have a fight, he sits in the back. Yes, just wait when you get married. Yeah, so we really enjoy it, and it's enjoyed the car shows.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I can't watch my mouth, too late.
Oh, well, don't worry about it.
She was a firecracker.
Oh, yes, she was.
And apparently also well known amongst the car show scene, Miss Katie. But that was it. That's the last file we got that day.
Yeah, it was so much fun walking around talking to all those people. And they all love their cars so much.
Yeah. When's the next one?
I don't know.
We have to figure that out. We have to figure out what's happening over the winter time. Or maybe now's the time we go to visit car clubs, not car shows.
Maybe so, yeah. There's something happening somewhere all the time. Even if it's not a show, there's something going on.
There's something going on.
Right.
There's near Bambinelli's Italian restaurant over on near North Lake Mall. The first Sunday of every month, there's an Italian car club gathering.
Oh, I had no idea.
Yeah, it's not a huge one, but Jen and I were walking out of that restaurant and we saw like 3 or 4 alphas, and we were completely captivated. You know, like there's a Giulia, there's whatever that other thing was that looked super exotic. It was just, those people were just a lot of fun too.
I know too that also on First Sundays there's a Panera Bread up in Roswell, I think, where a bunch of guys, I think mostly British, gather. I know some Lotus guys go to that, and maybe some Italian ones too. I'm not sure, but I think they're all kind of trying to be sort of the antidote to caffeine and octane.
Yes. Well, we should check those guys out and give them a shout, and we should probably go back to Greg Barner's group, the old Farts V8 gathering, But I think it's car club season now that it's wintertime. We should go check in with all these people. So,
Absolutely.
So if you're out there and you know of a local car club, at least local to us here in Atlanta, and wouldn't mind me and Ben and maybe a couple others from The Thing About Cars hanging out with you for a few minutes, please drop us a line. You can find us at thethingaboutcars.com. We hope that you've enjoyed this little experiment. We would totally value your comments and suggestions on how to make future car shows more appealing. And if you'd like to see more of this kind of thing online, along with the pictures that we will eventually put up on our blog when this episode publishes. And we'll look forward to hearing from you. And otherwise, we'll catch you on our next regular episode of thethingaboutcars.com. Am I forgetting anything, Ben?
I don't think so.
All right. You guys out there, be careful, be safe. We'll see you soon.
See ya.
Thank you for listening. This has been The Thing About Cars. We'll see you on the road.